I know I love gear, obviously, if you can't tell.
In this video, we're going to take a complete tour of The Garage, one of the top commercial studios that's pushing the limits of robotics and virtual production to produce jaw-dropping food and beverage commercials.
You'll get the gist here at The Garage that if there's a problem that nobody else has solved, we'll try to solve it ourselves if we can with all the facilities and the mad scientists we have in here.
We'll tour their impressive arsenal of cinema robots, their LED wall that they push to the limits for high-speed cinematography, and their in-house fabrication workshop.
We have the hot CNC mill, what every production company has. At the end of the day, a $100,000 a day job, every minute something delays you, it's just costing you a lot of money when you do the math.
And now let's head inside The Garage with Steve Giralt.
How's it going, everybody? We're here at The Garage in Brooklyn at the Industry City complex, so welcome.
All right, let's take a look around, Steve.
Here we go. Let's show you around. That's Amelia right there. She will be guiding the tour. That's my dog. As you see, we're averse to hard walls. We like curved glass on everything here. So this is our main shooting space. We do mostly food, tabletop, special effects type, really technical work here. So we don't need huge 20,000 square foot space, but we do a lot of stuff with robots, with virtual production, and a bunch of other cool stuff we'll show you. So here you see this shooting space. Here's one of our little baby robots. This is Bolt Jr. on track. He's really cute. You can just plug him into the wall, regular 120 power, and you can still do super high speed moves, super precise, pretty awesome. As you see, we have all sorts of contraptions. This will be the first of many contraptions you'll see from, this is, I believe, a chip launcher or something we built with a pneumatic cylinder here. And we also have our own custom-made lights that are liquid-cooled that we've made as well. This is like a 1,500 watt LED light.
Yeah, so you talked about that on the podcast. So what's special about the lights that you're making and why do you have to make them?
Yes, exactly. Well, this one's a little old now, but yeah, this basically is the same as like more than like an Aperture 1200, right? But look how tiny this thing is. I can mount this on a robot. I could squeeze it into tight spaces. We started doing this years ago because the brightest light was like a 300 watt LED at the time. So we're like, we need more power. So this is the smaller version. The bigger versions are on those Nanlux Fresnels over there. Those are 6,000 watts. So they're 6,000 watt LEDs. They're liquid cooled also, which is just the way to get the heat sinks away so they don't have to be really big. And they're flicker free at any frame rate. So up to 100,000 frames a second, because we do so much phantom slow motion. That was the most important thing for us, is like, we didn't want to deal with flicker. So basically, you'll get the gist here at The Garage that if there's a problem that nobody else has solved, we'll try to solve it ourselves if we can with all the facilities and the mad scientists we have in here.
And this was for throwing chips up in the air?
Yeah, I believe that was throwing chips or nuts or something. Something was being thrown that the dogs were trying to eat afterwards. And then let's see, we come across, we got our DMX set up in here. So as you see, our LED wall is on over here. We are actually doing a test today, shooting stills and video on the LED wall, which is a fun new experiment we're getting into.
At the same time?
Not necessarily at the same time, but like to see how high frame rate we could do on the stills camera. And we're actually working on a system to clock a stills camera to the wall for synchronization on the master clock, because that's not something you could actually do out of the box. So
I haven't thought too much about stills. So what have been the challenges with doing stills at high speed on an LED
virtual
wall?
production wall, right? So, normally when you shoot with a regular video camera on the LED wall, you give it a Genlock signal so that the shutter of the camera is synced to the wall and to Unreal and to all the different layers that need to be in line so that you get the proper motion blur and moving and tracking and all that stuff. So the problem with still cameras is there's no way to Genlock them because they're not designed for this. So basically, by just aiming the camera at the wall, you're limited to shutter speed because you have to kind of go way slower because you're not actually locked to the wall for refresh. But by locking the camera, we were able to get 1/2000th of a second shutter speed on the wall with our high-speed wall. So that's pretty amazing. So we're kind of just refining that process a little bit here in-house. And we're also going to try it with different cameras. This is the Sony Alpha 3, 893, whatever it is. The global shutter, one that'll do 120 frames a second of stills, which is pretty cool. And then in-house here we have the Red Raptor XL X, and we have the Phantom VO 4K for the super slow motion stuff. The Red Raptor is awesome for virtual production. It's also global shutter. It also lets us do ghost frame or phantom track, as they call it, which we could send you some footage to share around that.
Yeah,
stuff
we talked about that more in the podcast too.
Exactly.
Have you been doing that more and more in actual?
Yeah, and doing some real cool stuff with it. Yeah.
I think when we left off, you were trying it to do like match a move, but with like different lighting. So,
so we have that. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So shooting basically day and night simultaneously with different lighting setups tied to that as well. So by locking the, you see we had a bunch of Vortex 8 and Vortex 4 lights up on the grid. They could do frame sync, so we could also sync the lights to the camera to everything else so that we could actually shoot 2 different lighting looks or do all sorts of crazy stuff. And the funny thing is, yeah, the heart of this whole place is like the master clock that like clocks all this stuff together. It's super boring, like clocks, you know, as we talked about that on the podcast, but it honestly empowers us to do so much stuff. So,
and this is something you had to build yourself because most clocks are only 24.
Somebody made one that is expensive that we bought, and then we still had to add layers to that to make it give us all the formats we needed for 2398 all the way up to 240 frames a second and all that stuff. So here you have, this is one of our robots. So we have 7 total robots. So you saw Bolt Jr. This is Milo. Milo won an Oscar like 25 years ago for technology. It's an old machine, but it's a tank, as you see. So this is the most precise motion control robot that pretty much you could buy. You know, it is like, as you see, hardy. So like he could hold a 100-pound camera payload, you know, repeatable moves, super smooth. It does your focus, your iris, your zoom. It could just control everything on top of interface. It's 3D data out to virtual production to Unreal, basically. We don't actually have a tracking system in here. So the robots themselves send their 3D data out to Unreal.
So what you're doing, where you're always on a camera robot.
Here, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
And that's for
pretty
tracking.
much. Yeah, because we have 7 of them, so, you know.
Is it so huge because of when it was built, or for the camera payload, or is it just?
It's a mix of just like for sturdiness as it reaches out further, like you really just need that heft of the build. You know, if you think about like a factory robot that works at a car factory, like that carries like 1,000 pounds, like it just needs to be strong, right? So, you know, they have a lot smaller robots that exist, but generally speaking, the faster you go and the more you stress them out with a heavier camera, the more likely it's going to be that they start to shake. That's why Milo's great. I mean, and Milo's unique because he was actually a purpose-built robot for cameras versus almost all the other robots you'll see by different brands, and even themselves, the Bolt camera line, robot line, are all just industrial robots repurposed for this. So this was like basically like hand-built, and they just came out with the Super Milo, which is a new version of Milo, but faster. So our wall here is a row, actually they're older panels, they're black Onyx 2 panels, so it's like a 2.8 pixel pitch panel, but it'll go up to 1800 nits, so they're nice and bright, which is great for slow motion work that we do. And then the ceiling is row CB5 ceiling tile, which is 5 pixel pitch, which will do, I think, 4,500 nits or 6,000 nits, super bright, you know. There it is, yeah, see? Boom, color. And then on the floater, on the sides, we have some floater panels that are just the same CB5 that we put onto stands, so we can bring them in for reflections and stuff like that when appropriate. And then we have a bunch of Vortex 8, Vortex 4 lights up on the grid, and a couple movers like the one above you that we use for moving light. Solar High Beam 3000 hi-fis, yeah. So I know I love gear, obviously, if you can't tell. But they're really cool with virtual production because we could actually do, you know, patterns that look like, you know, dappled light through a tree and all sorts of stuff like that that we could just automate through GMX to move and then have it change instantly instead of traditionally having a light and a thing to make the light do the thing. It's cool. We like automated stuff, obviously.
And it also feels like everything here feels very practical.
Yes.
Like doing it in camera.
We do everything in camera. We try to do everything in camera. You know, ICVFX, you know, all the way, hence all of this, right? Like, well, we do the robots and we do all that stuff. Is basically, not to say we won't do compositing, so do one pass for this and one pass for that, and try to layer it all together. But yeah, as much as we could put it all in camera, the better for us, you know. Still learning it, honestly. Virtual production is still, you know, pretty new in general as far as mass adoption and people like us. But we have found ways to do a lot with this size wall, and I think you're going to see more and more studios with this kind of scale production coming up.
Like being able to do a lot with a smaller wall.
Yeah.
Like
well, especially us, we're doing so much products that are just like a Pepsi bottle or a food plate or a table, or, you know, so for us, like, this scale is pretty great. And the need to basically try to control the scenario, because we're doing a lot of food, and food could basically really melt in the sunshine, or you name it. There's like all sorts of problems that come with food, or you need a full kitchen, and to bring the full kitchen on location is just a lot of work. So for us to bring the location in here is awesome. Gets a little warmer by the LED wall over here, as you see, yeah. And I guess that tells you the resolution of our wall right there. So yeah, this is a single node system also. A lot of that is like the fact that we're doing 240 frame a second slow motion. You need a lot of processor power and a lot of resolution. You can't really do that at 8K. You know, it would be really challenging. I mean, you could, just we're not there yet.
And did you say Brompton is running your?
Yes, Brompton SX40. and 3 NV distribution boxes. Like the amount of Brompton power would normally run like a wall 4 times the size, at normal speeds. That's what you give for wanting the slow motion stuff. You know? Tommy's like, I'm cleaning up over here.
Sure.
I'm not ready for guests yet.
I'm certainly not, but you can come by anytime.
What do we got going back here?
Well, I suppose the heart of the beast. I'm the guy who makes all the virtual production things go production-y.
So Tommy's
it starts at laboratory and then goes to production.
Yeah. So when we went to try to do slow motion, Tommy spent a lot of time looking at signals on oscilloscopes with clocks and all sorts of fun stuff. And still does. Yes, exactly. As we try to push the limit. As you see, most VP studios don't have things like this just sitting around their thing, and
Or a scope that's running regularly.
Exactly. And we're just once again scratching the surface of like, how can we leverage this technology to not just do things we traditionally do, but to actually go beyond. So if we're not shooting a job, we're R&Ding and coming up with crazy ideas to try and do, basically.
Yeah.
So.
And this also doubles as workshop, laboratory, repair, modify,
I see some old TVs here.
Yes. Also experimental, which is I suppose the last slash of this corner over here. Testing out a new build of the world here, just seeing what this weather's all about. There's a lot of factors in doing this stuff, partially in real time and then partially for the fidelity we need in our scenario, because we're typically closer to the wall than you normally would be. Fidelity matters a bit more. So I look at this stuff a little harder as far as what things are loaded in terms of textures and the close-up fidelity of those things, and then weighing that against performance and our focal plane and all of that. So there's a lot of balancing acts that I'm doing that if we were like 20 feet away from the wall, wouldn't really be worried about it as much. I mean, there's all these sorts of little factors that I'm trying to eliminate at all times. Every little thing can be show-stopping. So, obviously it's really important to continually test all of these things too, but there's the other sort of production aspect of it of, okay, well, we got to make this work right now. What are my options?
Yeah.
And there is no shortage of things that I will have needed to try to be able to do that on the fly. So every 10 hours I spend testing even the dumbest thing can be the most crucial thing I know to have available to me and be like, oh, okay, cool. We can just do this quick, or this will work.
Flare operator's manual for the robots, so if anybody wants some light reading, it's
I was doing a little light
very
reading,
exciting.
believe it or not.
Is it written for engineers?
No, not necessarily.
Yes and no. I mean, it's the operator's manual.
But if you want to see, like, here's the Flare
but it tells you
software here, basically.
Yes, it tells you the secrets of this.
This is, we're running it based on a different robot, not the robot that's up there right now. As you see, that does not look like that. But basically, this is the software we use to control the robot, all the axes, and kind of make our moves, which is pretty cool.
Do you have to program the whole thing on the computer with this one? Because I know some of their newer models have the keyframing where you could
move it. Yeah, so they some of their new robots, you could actually drag the camera and keyframe this point and actually move it physically.
Yeah.
Here you got to control it either with this space mouse we use or just through the mouse or keyboard. We also have a PlayStation remote. It depends on the operator how they prefer to kind of move between shots, But at the end of the day, it's just basically keyframes that you drop in here on the timeline, and you just kind of keep adding waypoints, to your move, and then it kind of connects the dots together, basically. But we do this as a service for other people, basically, too. So we actually have a whole side arm called Garage Motion Control Rentals, basically, that, we did a bunch of stuff for Apple TV and HBO and all that stuff where we're, kind of interfacing with their VFX supervisors, their stunt coordinators, everything to kind of pre-program and previs moves, and then basically execute them on the robot. Because we could take in FBX files, we could export our move as an FBX. And that's why for us, virtual production made a lot of sense, because we were already working in 3D as it was with the physical thing. So we're like, oh, okay, well, we already know how to get the data, we already know how to use it and import, export, all that stuff. So it was just a matter of now we export it and we shoot the thing on the wall,
Because you're doing the robots way before you're doing virtual production.
Yes, exactly. We've been doing robots for a long time. Yeah, exactly. The robot kings, But as you see, there's always a lot of doodads that we're playing with, and with that, the future is, SIP 2110 and,
Have you been using that yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
We're just diving. We're trying to get access to as much as we can as soon as possible,
What would some of the workflow cleanups be, or how would that help?
Less different types of cables, everything just goes through basically Ethernet, which is so much easier. And, we might be able to scale the pipelines more than because, with SDI, it's like, oh, this cable can only do 3G and this could do 6G. I think it'll simplify, especially if we have a super high speed fiber optic network in here. So we already are prepared to kind of pump that data through, So I think for us, SIP 2110 and also P2P clocking, which is the new standard over Genlock that people are moving towards as well. I know it's coming to some of the new processors, and the Red Raptor already does it for us. So that's how we clock the Red Raptor, is also an Ethernet cable. So that's the thing. The future is less SDI cables, more Ethernet cables. Just like in lighting, there's a lot less DMX cables and a lot more Ethernet cables. So, all the departments can share the Ethernet cables now going forward, But as you see, we have a lot of grip and lighting stuff as well. Beyond our custom lights, we do have some everyday lights too.
regular aperture lights.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful BQE. So this is kind of, production desks when we have productions going on, just all the line producers and production managers and everybody kind of all move in here, and, catering goes over there and everybody's happy, So we also have a video editing room, which has now kind of become half video editing and half Unreal World building and modifying room here. So it's still, that was the video editing station, and now this is the Unreal station with the thousands of monitors. So still always in flex here, but
do you do a lot of editing?
So for a lot of jobs where we're handling the post, they like to come in and sit with the editor and all that stuff. So that's where this room comes into handy. Yeah, exactly. It's a great little client room. That TV monitor just moves out of here, but it's in there right now temporarily. And then same thing, since this is all wired together, basically we have one multi-session person in here working on an Unreal project while we're shooting something on set and kind of interfacing that way. Okay. And then we also have people remote log in also sometimes to modify the worlds and stuff like that. So it's always about, for us, since it's always commercials are so much faster than episodic in some ways, because you're not shooting for 3 months, you're shooting for a day or two. So things move so fast, so there's really no time for waiting for anything pretty much. I'm sure episodic people will say the same thing, no, we got to go through 15 pages today, whatever. But so once again, working on a workflow with our vendors that make the worlds for us and work with us in virtual production that are really agile, really fast, has been super important to make it actually possible to do advertising with virtual production. Yeah. Here, let me turn on the lights for the prop room. This way we have a prop room, when you're preparing for your Thanksgiving dinner with your friends. We have plenty of plates and bowls and things here. You could come all the way in. It's more fun. So we have a resident production designer that lives in here with us, Paola. This is all her stuff, her collection of important plates and bowls and napkins and straws and surfaces, you name it. So since we do food as our primary clientele, let's say, we need to be able to pivot and, kind of have all this stuff ready to go on demand.
So you can just dress a table in any style you need.
Yeah. And we obviously, each job requires us to prop specifically, but there's always the little fill-in bits that we need for stuff. It's great. It's also great for testing for us. Also, if we just want to do a test real quick on camera, it's okay, we can definitely whip that together.
Right. Yeah. What's this color plate look like with this placemat or this food?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy.
All the forks and things, and
I feel like I'm in the house section of MoMA or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're design warehouse.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool to have this in-house as well.
Yeah, so you got a bunch of textured
exactly, backgrounds and stuff like that too. Books, artwork. I think she has a whole collection of artwork somewhere for walls, and because we still traditionally do build a lot of sets, but now with virtual production we're building less sets, and I think that's the biggest thing for us was to go that direction, was so that we could actually build less physical sets
and just have some elements here that you could just blend in with the virtual set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could feel the vibration of the BQE in the bowls and stuff in here.
Anything ever fall off?
No.
Good.
No, not that bad. Yeah. Then snack bar. We got our own
garage water.
Garage water. Very very important for keeping people hydrated. And then, since we do so much food and beverage stuff, we have our own kitchen here. It's a full gas kitchen with the whole vent hood that you would have in a restaurant. This, we actually put this whole thing in when we moved in.
So you built this whole space out?
Yeah, this whole space was empty when we first moved in. So this was a COVID move when we moved from Manhattan out here. But this also comes out. Sometimes we have to rip it all out because brands like Domino's want to bring their Domino's pizza oven in here, or KFC wants to bring their fryer in here, or whatever it is. So as much as it looks like it's permanently installed, everything kind of moves in this whole studio, honestly, depending on the job.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But it's pretty fun to have a pizza oven in your studio, The cheesy bread was the worst thing ever, but the best all at the same time.
Worse to shoot or worse?
No, just because it was just fresh cheesy bread. Oh, sure, I'll have a little bit more. And then at the end of the day, you're oh, too much cheesy bread. Yeah. So everything from a commercial dishwasher to all the stuff,
That's amazing.
Open a restaurant. So.
You could be a ghost kitchen.
Yeah, pretty much, right? So this is my favorite part of the garage here, which is it's the loudest part of the garage too. The special effects workshop and fabrication. As you see, this window here actually gives you a good sense of some of the types of different rigs that we build, and everything from signage for a room. This was a purple mattress job that we needed to make a purple logo that actually had LED lights that glows in it, just kind of like our garage logo up there, to, this was a cheese pulling rig for Domino's, that the cheesy bread was on the table. This was underneath the table, kind of poking through, and had little claws in it, and grabs the cheesy bread and opens it and spreads it and gives you that perfect cheese pull moment,
I know what you're talking about.
To the garage keychain, very important, basically on this side, we have the hot CNC mill, what every production company has,
Of course.
So basically that is basically the opposite of 3D printing, where you're actually subtracting from metal or plexiglass or wood or whatever kind of material you want, and you basically can make anything you want out of metal. We'll show you
There's a lot of overlaps in between CAD design and
3D. Yeah, because they're
design.
using Fusion 360, and let's say there's all 3D in some way, basically, but there's also a lot of interaction between departments, basically robot person needs a thing from the mechanical people, the signal people. We do a lot of electronic stuff too. This is kind of the problem solving area. That's not a financial problem solving area of the studio, basically.
A physics problem solving area.
Yes, a lot of physics problem solving. But here, let me show you into the workshop. So we have a lot of stuff, very well labeled.
It seems very organized.
Yes, it is very organized. Yeah, because sometimes, Matt, who runs this room, he'll have teams working underneath him, depending on the project. And, the funnest part is that he starts with these tickets here. It's kind of like the kitchen, right? The ticket comes in and they kind of sketch out what the order is. Oh, look, here's Matt right now. Hello, Matt.
Hello.
And so he's very good at drawing, way better than I am for your tickets. And then whether he's building the rig or he has a team of freelancers working underneath him, basically they execute, then they go out on set, they test it and make sure, sometimes on camera, sometimes with iPhones, to make sure that it's working. Always learning on every job.
It's a lot of fun challenges, for sure.
Yeah.
How do you what's the planning process when you have to? I assume you figure out what kind of shot you need.
Yes, creative first, right? Myself as a director, one of our other directors, or an outside director we're working with, is I want to do a thing where the beer opens and then it's glowing magically or whatever it is. And it's okay, that sounds like a great idea. Then we talk to Matt, and Matt's well, what do you mean by that exactly?
Can we get specific?
You got to get very specific, and you got to okay. And that's the thing. So he comes from a photography background too. So he understands the visuals, the creative, and what we're trying to accomplish. Because if you're just talking to a machinist or technician, they're going to be what?
It just has to look good in frame. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
It looks like outside of frame.
Yeah, exactly. So that is very helpful, because you also have solutions sometimes that I don't think about, of did you think about doing this way? And I'm all right, that sounds a lot easier than my original idea.
Efficiency is important. Yeah, I guess a few of the things that I feel I bring to the table in terms of, from my photo background and engineering, is an awareness of this needs to not be problematic in terms of lighting.
Right.
Whatever the solution is, sure, it's going to have to take up some space, but ideally things are compact and quick to set up and reliable. So pretty much all my rigs, I'm looking for something that's incrementally adjustable.
Right.
So I can have a setup, we can repeat that setup and do the exact same thing if we want to, or we can make small tweaks to it until it gets to the point that we need to have it to work properly.
Yeah.
And that could be electrical solution, it could be a pneumatic air powered solution, motors. There's a whole bunch of different ways that we kind of approach either movement or liquid
Rigging
sprays,
stuff, whatever,
like a lot of different fun challenges. That's one thing I love here is that we're, like Steve was just saying, like we're always like innovating and always coming up with new challenges to work on.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we go when we're like, oh, do we have the little hose maybe that could do the little thing? Or so we keep a lot of stuff around, you know, if you look at some of the labeling, it's like, oh, the soda can rig or the, you know, hacked XLR cables, you know, so it's like we have all sorts of stuff around depending on what, you know, what the need is, because, and also a ton of plexiglass tanks because we're always doing a lot of liquid stuff. So like there's a difference between a tank that is, you know, half an inch deep versus one that's 6 inch deep or 12 inch or 2 feet deep, or a huge infinity pool that we made, you know, that was like 4 by 8 feet or bigger. Was it 8 feet? Yeah, either way, with the ledge. So that could be like the perfect little infinity pool, you know, everything from large scale to like little tiny scale is what we kind of fabricate based on the job, you know.
And it's super useful having everything here in-house because oftentimes, you know, either the clients don't decide on what it wants to be until the last second, or you're on set and then it becomes clear like, okay, well, this was the idea, but we need to modify the idea.
Right.
And so to be able to do things on the fly and make adjustments on the fly by having a shop in-house is such a huge advantage.
It's everything, yeah.
20, 30 feet from set.
Yeah. Because, you know, once again, at the end of the day, you know, $100,000 a day job, every minute something delays you, it's just costing you a lot of money when you do the math. So it's like, if we, by having this, could save an hour, like imagine, it's huge, right? It's a tenth of your day,
and
right?
The number of times that I've had, you know, a short list of rigs to do on the day, and then the AD pops in and said, hey, we need to drop this instead of doing it by hand.
Yes.
Can you get us a dropping rig? I'm like, we can get you a dropping rig right now.
Exactly. But one that's perfect and reliable, ready to go, that you can just plug right in. You know, so that's why we've standardized a lot of also our triggering systems too with the robot, so that like it's really easy to just plug something in, and the robot operator through the software that we use for the robot could actually trigger it at specifically a frame 52.
Software is controlling everything.
Camera, so basically it's all one program, for better or worse, like you know,
program timeline of when everything happens. So that makes a huge difference, because we're like, oh, okay, that should be, you know, the 10th of a second earlier. Because remember, we're in slow motion for a lot of this stuff, so like a 10th of a second could be like millions of years at 1,000 frames a second, you know, sometimes. So it's really that repeatable precision that is like so important, and that's not just the physical aspect of the rig, but also the repeatability on timelines too, you know, because humans are not that accurate.
Or repeatable.
Yeah, exactly.
I think about that the meatball dropping shot.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And exactly, even with that, it's like there is still some variance, because like each meatball, these are organic things, right? It's not like they're all exactly the same, right? Each one has a different shape and like the texture, because it was cooked more or less, or it's oily or less oily, you know, like everything has this organicness to it. Like, oh my God, strawberries we've found is like, each one's a totally different shape, really, you know, like, so if you're trying to spin a strawberry, it's like, oh, each one wobbles a different way. So it's those subtleties that keep us employed.
Your expertise on the subtleties.
Yes, exactly. We understand what might go wrong. And we also will test it if we're not sure, you know, ahead of time. And sometimes it's also because the product itself is challenging, right? Like Velveeta cheese or something, you know, something where we don't have control over the thing, you know, that's like, oh, but what if we warm it up a little bit? What if we cool it down a little bit? You know, like that's kind of all the room we have.
And like how it like will maneuver in space.
Yeah, because so many times we like started with water to test a liquid thing, but then when you put the heavy cream in, it reacts like totally differently, you know, so it's like, all those subtleties, once you learn over time, really matter.
Drawers of tools.
And do you build everything in CAD first, or can you just like program?
You can program stuff on the fly. We pretty much do everything in CAD first, because like the G code part of this, we made the choice to like use Fusion's CAM software to write the G code for us. You could pursue that, but like for how much we use the 3D design software, it kind of made more sense to us to just get good at the 3D design and using its tools to write G code for us. I mean, we can read little bits of it and be like, oh, I see how high it's going to go here on the Z. But for the most part, we don't edit any of it here at the console. A lot of the real machinists do, but we're not that die-hard about it.
Whatever gets the job done, right? Right, whatever.
Sure. Like this thing for Purple Mattress was, we built everything but the air cylinders, and it was dropping a 400-pound piece of plate glass to show how well their mattresses absorbed it. These rig components were a part of the set, so they had to look really nice. And so that was part of the challenge, is like not just making something that did the function, but also like looked really well and interesting, engineered, and had a good finish to it. So that was like one of the big things that we did using the CNC pretty much right away after we got it. It's like figuring out how to make all of these parts in time and have them work and have them look cool.
Yeah.
So that was a fun challenge. We're making these like 19 mil rod clamps. Basically, it's got a rosette connection in between the two sides and allows you to change the angle that they're arranged at.
And you can just kind of mount two different rails, and
you can mount rails at
position
different angles. I'll use it for different rigs. If you're rigging something right in front of the camera that's going to stay fixed in front of the camera. So, for example, like I think we did, a fork that went into spaghetti, and it was like the fork side view. This is just really helpful because it can work with the 19 mil rods that are typically mounted on the bottom of the camera. Yeah, and so also like I made a way to go from 80-20 kind of plate to one of these guys. Right, so that way I can go back and forth between the regular square type stuff and the 80-20. So I can get rods to come off of 80-20 or go back to 80-20.
Nice. That's super handy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep finding new, like here on our displays for different rigs.
Oh, that's for different food.
Use those guys.
Just kind of poke over here just to show you some of our.
These are past
rigs, yeah. So we have kind of conveyor belts, turntable. These are all different tops for turntables. Some that you want to paint, some are metal, some have certain mounts on them. All sorts of sliding trays if you want to like slide chips down a chute or something like that. And then we have all sorts of liquid tanks for spraying. Either this size hose liquid or this one has this huge hole on it where we have to use a 2-inch hose of Mountain Dew flying into this whole huge thing. So once again, like originally this hallway is empty, and then we like keep building stuff and like filling this place with stuff.
Like the amount of space you have, the amount of stuff expands to fill.
Oh my God, it's crazy. Yes, yeah, the goldfish thing all around the way. But yeah, no, I mean it's super fun to have all this stuff here.
And this one.
Oh yes, if you look into this sad power room here, there's we built this for Pepsi. It was the Bellagio fountain of Pepsi, basically. So each of those little nozzles, that could be its own little fountain that's controlled individually. And then basically each one has a high and low pressure too. So you could have like a small squirt or a big squirt. So that was a lot of work for basically what was going to be like 3 seconds in the commercial. So, but you'll probably still see it if it's running in every country but the US.
I'm sure we can find it online.
Yeah. If you'll see we've done some of the best work for Pepsi, honestly, because they'll actually have us do R&D in-house as part of the project. Like, oh, okay, we know what you could do. Like he was saying, these are the safe rigs. How do we push those further? How do we do that in
so
more interesting ways?
Like experimenting to push the envelope and
honestly, I think we're trying to recruit more brands to join that party because it's honestly so fun because they get to see things that they'd never imagined like their product could do or could be seen in such a new light, and then therefore elevates their brand beyond all the other brands out there because they're showing work in a totally different way that catches people's attention. Because as we know, catching people's attention is part of the whole thing now.
The attention economy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then we have some, conference rooms. We had to put our clients and agency people somewhere. It's a fun little space that we work out of. And the lighting, we chose that. It's pretty cool.
Is it the
Here we go.
nicest garage I've ever seen?
Yes, exactly. Well, the original studio in Manhattan looked a little more like a garage. Yeah.
You move out here for more space?
Yeah, exactly. So we basically, once the robots kept multiplying and we needed more space for robots, we have another room downstairs full of robots too. We just needed a bigger space with bigger freight elevators and bigger access to loading docks and all that stuff, because also Pepsi might unload, 8 pallets of Pepsi, and stuff like that. And for those that have been to New York City and been in Manhattan, like trying to double park a 16-wheeler on 36th Street by Penn Station or something and trying to unload on the street, double parked is not fun, So this makes a lot more sense. And plus here at Industry City, we have a beautiful family of other friends here, like Abel Cine, Lux Lighting, and now the NYU Tisch Scorsese Virtual Production Film School is like right across the way. I think you guys should get them on an episode. That'd be very fun.
Reach out.
But no, so it's great. We're all friends. We've all done actually workshops here together and kind of had events as a very collaborative, bunch of creators that are all part of the same economy of filmmaking, just in different areas of it. So it's pretty great.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Steve. This has been great.
Thanks, guys. Join us next time.